Welcome to our Tremolo series.
In this series, we're going to share with you tremolo pedals by some of our favorite manufacturers.
Thanks for joining us. In this episode, we're looking at the Gravitas Analog Tremolo from Chase Bliss Audio, and this is part due because there was so much to it. That's right. Only so much we could get into on the first one. This is the advanced version.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We've brought a lot of pedals down here.
Yes.
Guitars, amps, whatever. There's been very few things that have made me nervous. Right? And there's been a couple where I've looked at them and I'm like,
right.
Man, I don't know if we're going to do that justice or if we're going to figure that out.
Or we kick that can down the road a little bit longer because it's going to be a little bit more involved.
And so we're a little bit old school. And I have a feeling some of the people that are going to watch this video are a little bit old school. And pretty quickly you're going to be like, oh, that's not for me. But, in fact, I'll tell you how fast you're going to be like, oh, it's not for me maybe, is when you see that.
Bum, bum, bum.
So... Stop right there. Because that is not as complicated as it looks.
Right.
And I've watched like other people's videos and stuff, and then for the longest time I'm going, this is complicated. I don't get it. And then all of a sudden it kind of clicked and I wrapped my head around it. So I'm gonna dig way down into my science teacher soul.
Unlike me, who took it home for a couple of days and brought it back.
And see if I can't make this make sense. Because I think we can. I think we can make sense of it. I'm not going to make any promises that we're going to cover everything that you can do with this pedal. I think there's some hidden features. It's one of those things when you start thinking about things, oh, if I do that and that, I might be able to come up with this really unique sound.
Right.
That's not the goal. The goal is to take some mystery out of this in a way where you might go, oh, well, that could be handy.
Right.
And so if you would like the ability to control any knob on the pedal, or almost every knob on the pedal, with an expression pedal. So not only your rate, but your depth, your tone, your sway, your... I forget what else is there. Volume.
Right.
You can do that. If you'd like the ability to have an invisible hand reach down out of the sky, grab your depth knob, and slowly roll it back and forth while you play, you can do that.
If your YouTube partner isn't available to do that for you.
Right. You can do that too, which creates some really interesting things. The first dip switch I think we ought to talk about, though, and this will be interesting trying to do on this on camera, is the dip switch labeled mode. So I'm just going to take my pick and flip that one that says mode on it. Now, hopefully you watch part one, so you have, face value, our face value video. What does this look like at face value? One of the things that we went over is this little thing right here, this little toggle right here that switches us between 1, 2, and 4 subdivisions. By hitting the mode switch, I've actually bumped it down to I can't read what it says. I think it says S, B, or H. So S is standard, H is harmonic, and the B would be both.
I thought you said V for both.
Both.
Both, yeah.
But before we can do that, Pat needs to give you the reference set.
Right.
So let's do that. I get carried away.
From the Revolta Mondata 8 through the Tyler Ampworks JT 22.
Awesome. So, let's start in standard mode, which is what we did the whole last video in. I'll let you play a little bit. And this video is not about depth knob and speed knob. We're just strictly doing switches, dips and tricks.
We just found the name of the episode.
Dips and tricks.
Or a metal song from the 80s. I'm not sure which it is. Good night, everybody. We've enjoyed our run on YouTube. It was a good one.
All right. Standard mode.
Okay.
Hold on.
One moment, please.
I actually
hit 2.
And you would have thought that there was a problem with the pedal, but no, I hit 2 switches.
Right.
Standard mode. We had the depth up pretty high.
Yeah, we did.
Because it makes it easier to hear some of this stuff. But so you had, that was standard mode, harmonic tremolo, a blend of both. Another dip switch, another trick. What I had done when I messed up is I had accidentally hit this Mo2 buy yo or whatever, but it's what it means is momentary to bypass.
Mm-hmm.
And if I click that on,
You got the cable back here. Your editor's going to hate you.
if I click that on, I'll show you.
Nope, volume.
So that takes it from a momentary, or like like turning it on and off, to just when you press it, it's on, and when you take your foot off, it's off. It's off. So let's take that off. We'll leave mode on because we'll leave it in that both mode. And so now where do we go? You're right.
That cable keeps wanting to be under there.
Let's go here. So I have an expression pedal. We have the Moog EP2. And we're going to plug that in. And so we're going to assign that. We're going to show you that you can assign it to different things, but show you how the pedal actually helps make it work the way that you want to make it work. I think probably the easiest thing to hear would be rate. So a high depth or a rate. So when I plug that in, I have to go on the back and flip the expression side over here. I have to flip the rate switch, which is the third one in. And so if you play,
So inquiring minds want to know, could you make that more like a standard heel toe than it's the opposite?
so what you notice right away with this pedal, toe was slow and heel was fast. And you're going, probably not the way I'd like my pedal set up. And so if you look at that other side here, over here, this flips the polarity of your pedal. So all I have to do is find rate over there and flip that switch. And now my pedal So another thing that's important to note, if I were to put this rate knob in the center, that is my toe right now. So heel is all the way down, toe should be the center of the rate knob. Now,
Because we've talked about that before. Sometimes that top rate isn't practical maybe for what you're doing. Maybe. It's not a traditional sound. So
but what if this slow is too slow?
Right.
Like what if what if I want my slow to be where my toe was? Well, there's another interesting trip on all these dip switches. If we look at them again, this right here says sweep.
I'm trusting you.
I'm trusting myself too.
My glasses are over here.
And then up at the top it says top or bottom. And right now it's set for bottom. So what it means is wherever your knob is, it's from there down. If I flip that dip switch, it goes from there up.
Oh, gotcha.
So if I flip that little guy,
Boy, I can see she's a fluttering because it's all the way.
and then one thing we said would be interesting if you're using a pedal like the Moog EP2 here, who should endorse us at some point. There's a little wheel on the side that we can back the top speed off.
Right.
So if I back that off a little bit. So we can really kind of tailor between that switch on the side there and that, we can really tailor that. So if you think about that whole row of dip switches, really, we had the first one that turns on the expression pedal. The second one on the same, labeled the same way, right on the second side. So your first 5 switches are volume, tone, rate, depth, sway. And then on the second set, the first 5 are the same thing. That we're changing the sweep, reversing the polarity for our pedal. Then we had one that flipped modes to get to harmonic tremolo and stuff. And then we had one to do the top half of the range or the bottom half of the range. And so really, that's not really that difficult. And then so there's some other stuff we can do. If I unplug the expression pedal, let me go back to this. There is a button called Bounce. And I'm going to turn Bounce on. And so a couple people kept talking about Bounce. I couldn't figure out what they were talking about.
Right.
And all it is, somebody reaches down, grabs a knob, and rolls it back and forth.
Is this one of the invisible hand features you were talking about?
Yeah, so that's like the invisible hand feature. So right now we have it on rate. We have it on bounce, and I'm going to flip one more toggle, which is the control toggle. And I honestly am not 100% sure what that one does, other than turns this light to green. So somebody in the comments may be able to help us with this. But our drive now is actually controlling this a little bit too. So the drive knob, when we turn that control, something about that, because you'll notice if I do that, how fast the green knob was going changed. So what is happening at the speed that green knob is changing? The rate is being turned from all the way off to all the way up, or up to there.
All right.
And I actually lied about that because it's not. We had that one toggle set to be the top part.
No.
So what's happening now is from this line, 50% up to the top. It's being turned from 50% to the top at that speed. And so when you flip the control toggle, this changes to red. It has something to do with the top tempo and the control. And this is where I'm going to call Uncle. I wasn't able to figure that out, but I was able to figure it out enough that I can get this kind of set where I want. Like we could speed that up a little bit. And so if you think about this, if we were to leave all the settings the same, go back to the dip switches, turn off rate, and turn something else on, and I'm not even sure we need to turn on the sweep because we don't have the expression pedal plugged in. But what do you want, depth or?
I think depth would show pretty clearly.
So let's
turn
go
from
depth.
Basically, almost off to on.
Let's turn on depth, and let's turn
top to bottom, or is that what you think about?
Yeah, the top to bottom one. Let's turn that to bottom so it's everything below, and we'll turn depth all the way up. So it should be everything below and everything at the top.
Yeah, we can hear it when it gets super throbby. That's the depth at its highest setting.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, like, how to use that, right?
Right, yeah. We talked about that off camera. Some of these settings, there's so much variance. You have to really dial in. You have to exactly know exactly what you want to go after. Or it could do a point of creativity for you.
Right, because what if we were to, like, leave it on that depth setting?
Change the waves.
Put a square wave on the front of it and a triangle wave on the back of it. Maybe sway it a little bit towards the square wave.
It started to fade out there at the end, yeah.
And then you could also hear, there was like, it felt like a couple things happening in there.
Right.
The control knob has something to do with like the parameter, like one setting, I think the setting we have it in now where the light's green, it's the parameter that's changing. And then when we go to the other setting, the red, it's the other thing. And we could just look at that real quick. We'll read it to you and then let you. R stands for ramp, P stands for parameter, RPM in this case. In the P position, tapping in the tempo will dictate the RPM. In the R position, tapping on the tempo will dictate the ramp rate. So it's great for modulating parameters. Remember, bounce dip switch needs to be on if you want the ramp parameters back and forth rather than just ramping and holding. And so there's definitely some stuff with ramping and holding that we haven't gotten into. Right. But I think, could be wrong. If you look down the list of dip switches, we've talked about the sweep. We did not talk about the divisions one. That's how you switch from that 1-2-4 to the 3-6-8. Right. So if you're doing something in triplets, you would just flip that. Mm-hmm. We didn't do that on this because we've been using the harmonic tremolo, the both setting, the blend. Right. But we talked about that. Swamp divisions. Talked a little bit about the control switch. Over here we did the momentary thing.
Right.
We did the mode, which lets us go between standard tremolo or the flipping between the tremolo and stuff. Mm-hmm. We did the bounce, which is that kind of invisible hand. And then the rest of these are just which one do you want the expression pedal to control? And over here, which way do you want the sweep? And now, one last thing. We're running out of time. And I haven't tried this.
Have we ever run out of time?
Yeah. I haven't tried this, but what would happen?
Imagine a world, if you will.
If we put on the depth for the expression pedal,
okay,
and put on the rate, right, and now did the reverse polarity for the rate.
Are you thinking one's going to sweep one way, one's going to do
right, but not for the depth?
Chaotic.
And then we'll do top on the sweep. So that way we can keep them both kind of. So if we set the rate and the depth both at 50, right? Heel should be one all the way up and one at 50, and toe should be one all the way up and one at 50.
It's a lot of math. You got to plug it in.
And we got to plug it in. There we go.
All right.
Who knows?
Should we call our mothers and tell them we love them?
Yes. That's really cool.
That is.
Because what ended up happening was high depth, slow speed. So when you backed it off, it slowed down, but the depth got bigger. When you went forward, it sped it up, but the depth went away. And at one point, I had made it so the depth all went away. And so how cool is that? That you can have it set where it's almost like a clean, but as you pull it back, it just gets deeper and deeper and slows down too. That's really cool. So that's like one thing that I haven't seen a lot of people get into, but the idea that I can start changing, I can make the expression pedal control multiple knobs, but some turn up, some turn down. And then if you throw into like, well, I guess you only have one knob for the top or bottom. So they either all have to be above or all be below. Right. But I mean, how much control do you want really? I mean, like,
well, we're not even talking about MIDI, and we don't even know what all. If you're a control freak, maybe you plug into the MIDI side here.
Yeah, and get your computer out. But so I mean, hats off to Chase Bliss, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a little intimidated at first. I was a little like, I mean, maybe we bit off more than we can chew. We like pedals with a lot of features on them. We think that's really cool, but I was like, maybe this time we were beat. But again, it's still pretty intuitive. Once you get over that hump, if you watch this video, it should be intuitive now.
Hopefully. And one thing I don't think we mentioned the first time is that the signal is supposed to maintain analog through the whole process.
Right.
Regardless of the brain that sits over top and all of the dip switches, you still have a true analog signal all the way through.
Yes. So, shout out to Chase Bliss. And they make a lot of other cool pedals that are doing cool things. So with that, this is the point where we always say thank you to everybody that's been watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for clicking the notification button, clicking like, leaving comments down below. What did we miss, if you know? Or what would you like to know more about? And we'll pretend like we're going to figure it out for you.
We'll phone a friend.
Yes. Thanks for stopping by Instagram, Facebook. We're just loving the friendships that we're making. And thanks for watching the premieres. Shout out to all the guys that join us for the premieres and watch the premieres. It's really nice that you hang out with us, because nobody else will. So,
except for each other.
With that,
I'm PJ on behalf of The Beard, reminding you no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear.
Barber?
Yeah, Barber. That barber pedal, man. That is so good.